All right, welcome. Today, we're diving into a case file that really blurs the line between what you might call a heavenly force and an alien encounter. We're talking about one man whose entire life is just peppered with these bizarre interventions, and we're going to unpack all of it to see just how deep this mystery really goes. Right off the bat, this is the question at the very heart of this entire case file. Are angels and aliens the same thing? It's a question that makes you rethink some really ancient beliefs, but through this, very modern, almost otherworldly lens. So just keep that question in mind as we dig in. So here it is. We're cracking open entry number 70, which is a subject report titled, and you gotta love this, Help from Heaven. And trust me, this thing chronicles a string of events that are they're not easy to explain. It's this wild mix of what seems like divine intervention and just pure high strangeness. And at the center of this whole report is one person. So let's meet the subject of our investigation.
A man named Dakota Frandsen.
See, Frandsen's story isn't just a one-off weird event. We're talking about a lifelong pattern of interventions from what he describes as this incredibly powerful non-human protector. And he gives this being a name, the Archangel Michael. That one claim, well, that's the key to this whole thing. So what does this angelic protection even look like? I mean, how does that play out? Well, the file lays out a whole history of intervention, and apparently it all kicked off when Frandsen was just a little kid. You've got to look at the pattern here. It starts super early, at just 3 years old, with this dramatic rescue from a so-called dragon man by a being with silver wings. Fast forward a few years, and that same entity, now identified as St. Michael, allegedly reveals something absolutely incredible, that Frandsen has a daughter who can travel through time. The whole thing just escalates from protection to direct action, all the way to a point where Michael supposedly possesses Frandsen's body to literally fight off a demon. It's a lot. And the connection just seems to get deeper. Frandsen goes on to create this protective symbol he believes was directly inspired by Michael. He even names his, and get this, extraterrestrial son, Michael. The report points to that as maybe a subconscious link. But honestly, the most chilling piece might be this. During the filming of a documentary, they capture an EVP, an electronic voice phenomenon, and on it, a voice allegedly identifies itself plain as day as Michael the Archangel. Okay, so one person's testimony is one thing, right? But the case file tries to build on that. It starts looking for corroboration, first from inside the family, and then from a totally independent witness. Now, Frandsen himself says this connection isn't just random, it's ancestral. He claims his own grandmother, who believes she talked with angels, actually speculated that their whole family line might descend directly from Michael the Archangel. So this isn't just his story, it's like a family legacy. But what about proof from someone outside the family bubble? This is where the report brings in one really key eyewitness account that has these almost spooky parallels to what Frandsen went through. And here's where things get really, really strange. So this other person reports getting attacked by something they call the Lord of Shadows. Then, out of nowhere, a man who looks almost exactly like Dakota Frandsen shows up and saves him. The rescuer then vanishes, but leaves behind a burned M symbol on the witness's hand. And what was the witness's conclusion? He was convinced he was saved by St. Michael, but in human form. A protector, a physical mark, and the name Michael, you just can't deny the parallels there. Okay, so the case for some kind of angelic intervention seems pretty solid, right? But just when you think you've got a handle on the story, the report completely flips the script on us and throws out this radical, totally new way of looking at everything. The report points to this really fascinating detail. Major UFO organizations like MUFON actually have angels listed as a potential category of ET species. Now, this idea isn't exactly new in ufology, but it gives us a completely different framework for understanding everything Frandsen says he experienced. And that brings us to the real heart of this alternative theory. Citing a source they call the emissary, the report asks a wild question. What if archangels weren't beings at all? What if they were actually advanced extraterrestrial warships? Technology so far beyond us that ancient people could only describe it as divine.
So suddenly, you have these two completely different ways of looking at it. On one hand, you've got traditional lore, a divine, spiritual messenger of God. And on the other hand, you have this new idea, an advanced ET worship, just misunderstood by cultures that had no words for that kind of technology. Is Michael a guardian angel, or is he a guardian spaceship?
So where does that leave us with all this? The case file wraps up by trying to connect these two worlds, the spiritual and the extraterrestrial, and it lays out some pretty major implications. When you sort of merge these two incredible theories, the source material says it all really boils down to three core ideas. First off, whether you call it an angel or an alien, the purpose seems to be the same: protection and guidance. It's always showing up in moments of peril. Second, this whole idea forces us to look back at our own history and ask, are all those stories about angels actually humanity's first UFO reports? And finally, the fact that a being like Michael can show up across time, it hints that these encounters might not play by the same rules of time and space that we do. Ultimately, the Frandsen case file is suggesting that maybe we're asking the wrong question. Maybe it's not a choice between angels or aliens. The real takeaway here could be that they're two sides of the same coin, that our spiritual past and what we think of as a technological future are just different languages trying to describe the same unbelievable mystery. And that leaves us with one final big question to chew on. If angels could just be mistranslated technology, what other ancient myths, what other legends, what other gods are really just misunderstood encounters with the unknown, just waiting for us to finally figure out how to read their stories? Thanks for digging into this with us.